I have been working as a sitter for more than 3 years now on the Meowtel platform, and today I want to do an updated video about what that experience has been like for me, as well as if you are interested in cat sitting either like part-time or full-time through Meowtel, how you can get involved and give you some tips and kind of answer some common questions that I get as a Meowtel sitter. My name is Shannon, and in addition to being a part-time Meowtel sitter, I'm the meow mate to the beautiful Katniss. So I approach this both from the perspective of somebody who works for the Meowtel platform, as well as a cat mom who has a vested interest in getting the very best care for my fur baby. Now, when I first signed up for Meowtel in July of 2022, very truthfully, I did not know how it would end up fitting into my life. I was really curious what the experience would be like. I can tell you now, today, more than 3 years later, it is definitely a part-time thing for me. I, generally speaking, so this is an average, per month I'm earning about $800, and that is after all of Meowtel's fees are taken out. And my earnings have really varied. Like in some months I've had almost none, and largely that's been by choice because I'm taking time off. So maybe like $150-ish. My busiest month on record, it was $1,700. And again, those numbers are after the fees are taken out. My time on the Meowtel platform, I have completed 153 reservations, and I have 8 booked coming up. Keep in mind that a reservation can be multiple days long, so like one reservation could literally be like 10, 12, 14 visits. So in terms of number of visits, it's going to be a lot higher. And generally speaking, I would say about 80% of my clients today are repeat customers. So they are people who have hired me before, and they keep coming back and hiring me again and again and again. And honestly, the percentage of them who tip me on top of the rates that I have set is high. I would estimate it to be between like 75 to 85% of them are tipping me. And frankly, some of the tips are really, really good. So let's talk a little bit about, if you are interested in working as a Meowtel sitter, what the application and like the getting started, what the first process is like. Now, since I did this, it has changed. And in fact, Meowtel has told me that they're constantly tweaking the process to make it better. And so what I exactly experienced, which I made a video about after my initial onboarding, is slightly different now, but there are still a lot of similarities. So the very first thing that you should do if you're interested in working on the Meowtel platform is you should verify that Meowtel is actually hiring sitters in your area. This is a super easy process. You can go online to their website, just type in your zip code, and it will tell you if they are currently hiring. I kept hearing from people after I posted my initial video that they were getting emails like, "We're not currently hiring in your area." That came up after I had already been onboarded. This is because the platform has grown. I believe it is now present in 48 of the 50 states. And in some areas, there's just a ton of sitter competition. And so that is actually Meowtel. It may not feel like it, but that's Meowtel looking out for you, rather than putting you on the platform where you're not really going to be getting work in an oversaturated market. They're trying to make sure things are, the work is out there for the sitters they're onboarding. If Meowtel isn't currently hiring in your area, the other thing that I would say is, number one, keep checking back because it does change. And number two, don't let this discourage you from cat sitting in general. There are other ways to get started. There are other platforms. And in the meantime, learn all you can about Meowtel so you're ready to go when they're ready for you. And also you can apply a lot of this information to your other private client jobs. Okay, once you've verified that Meowtel is hiring sitters in your area, there's basically a 4-step process that you have to go through now. So number one, the very first thing is you fill out a general questionnaire. I know that when I did this, there was a little quiz as part of that, and it was very simple. So if you are a cat person with basic knowledge, it was not hard, and you didn't need to study for it. But it's going to ask you some questions, basically just to make sure you're a good fit. So the second step is you're going to then complete your sitter listing, which basically means you're going to write your bio, you're going to upload some photos, you're going to detail the type of services that you can offer, which we're going to get into those specifics in a minute. And you're just going to basically create the profile that would be shown to clients when they go looking for sitters in your area. The third step is you then have to pass a safety background check. And the good news is this is covered by my Meowtel financially, so it is no cost to you. But they will do 2 things. They will do a background check, and they will also call your references. I know that they do it because they definitely called mine. My references told me. And so when they ask you to provide references, take that seriously. If you do not have cat sitting experience in the past, you can provide references such as other pet or homesteading clients, teachers, employers, somebody who knows you in a professional or supervisory manner. Don't submit references. I don't think they're accepted of friends, families, significant others. That isn't professional and wouldn't count anyway. And the fourth step is, it sounds like this may be the different part significantly from what I went through. It sounds like there's a video interview now that you get to record at your own leisure. It sounds like they give you a week to do it. I'm guessing they provide the questions that you are then responding to on video. And it is, I remember answering these questions, but not in that format. And it's very cat-specific things, like scenarios, what would you do? And the advice that they give you on their website is basically to stick to cat sitting as much as possible, as relevant as possible. If it isn't something you've encountered, it's hypothetical then, and you talk about how you would handle it. But then you're going to complete the video interview as your fourth step. And then it sounds like this: after you've completed those 4 steps, if they indeed accept you, then there's an optional call that you can do with their success team, which I would highly recommend you do that. I remember them going, it wasn't optional for me, like it was a scheduled thing, but I do remember them reviewing my profile with me and giving me tips about things that stood out to them, good or bad, what I could tweak, what might capture attention. It's always good to get all the feedback you can, particularly when you're starting out, especially from the platform that really knows what works. And then, it doesn't say this specifically, but when I was onboarded, there was then a probationary period where essentially it really wasn't any different than what I do now, than working day to day, but they have certain criteria that you have to adhere to in order to stay active on the platform. And it had to do with the percentage of jobs that you accept, how quickly you reply to clients, not getting any complaints elevated to Meowtel that is ruled in the customer's favor, like all these like checkpoints during the days that you are on the probationary period. And then once you pass that, you are a full-fledged sitter. Not positive, I'm guessing they still do that. It doesn't clearly state that, but just know that with the probationary period, again, it sounded more intimidating than it ended up being. So once you go through all of that, you are officially a Meowtel sitter with your live listing and you're ready to rock and roll. And just in general, from one Meowtel sitter to hopefully another, I'm really impressed with the platform. I've found it to be thorough. I've found them to be up to date on everything. They have a lot of little extras, like they send weekly newsletters that are both educational but also inspirational, like little bonuses or rewards for sitters who hit certain milestones, stories, tips. There are fairly regular seminars, like virtual seminars that you can sign up for that are focused on different educational topics surrounding cats. They have a store where you can purchase products to help promote your business. They have templates you can use to create social media. And really just their platform is very detailed. It manages everything for you. Now, I did mention that Meowtel takes a commission from your earnings. Part of what that commission covers is paying for a service like this software, this program, which if you were running your own private business, you would have to do this stuff one way or another. There's always a cost to marketing. And so therefore the fee, why I think it catches some people off guard, just understand that you're getting value for it. Okay, so when you are first starting out, like one of the very first things you're going to do, obviously, is you're going to want to get clients. And I'm not going to lie, like when you are first starting out, it is a slow process generally. Because, number one, you're competing with a lot of other sitters, and two, you don't have the reviews and the background to maybe encourage that client who is browsing to pick you over somebody that might have 20, 30, 40 reviews. So, here are a few things you can do to kind of boost your odds in the early stages. Now, number one is set competitive rates. So one great thing about the Meowtel platform is your rates for any type of job that you offer, it will always kind of weigh them against what other sitters in your area are charging and let you know if you're high, kind of right on track, or if you're low, and you can adjust them super easily. So it is up to you to set your rates. You can make them whatever you want to be. When you are first starting out, you're going to have to be competitive. You can't be the highest with no backup to support those high rates. I'd also caution you against being the very lowest. I do think a lot of people have a perception that, if you're paying rock bottom price, maybe you're getting rock bottom service. That isn't fair. But also you want to value your own time and you want people to value your service. And that does partially come with image. So my recommendation in the early on is to be somewhere middle ground. It's fair, but it also still implies a certain quality. The second tip is to expand your radius probably to the max that you're willing to drive. Remember that radius is your service area, so it's basically where you're willing to go for jobs. When I say radius, I think of there and back. So if you set it at 10 miles, that means you are willing to drive 10 miles to a job, but also think about the 10 miles back. So set it wide, like cast the widest net possible. That's what I did in the beginning. I like literally put in zip codes that I wouldn't serve today, not for any other reason than I'm just too busy. But in the beginning, that's how you get reviews. Some of my earliest clients were really far from my house. And while making those long drives, I remember telling myself, this is the cost of doing business. I need to get some reviews up on that platform. I need to provide excellent service to these people so I can get, this ball rolling. Now, a challenge for me has been that some of these clients have grown super attached. Like I have grown super attached to the kitties, and the people are cool too. And so as I got busier and busier, it's like the drive was harder and harder to make, but I've still kept them in my lineup because, they will always have a special place in my heart for being one of the first. But I have since shrunk my service zone. So for new clients, I'm not willing to go as far out. But for older ones that are still awesome, I will still service them. And the third tip really isn't rocket science. It is just simply this. You have to go above and beyond, really for every client, but especially for those early clients, because this is how you get great reviews. This is what starts to attract other people to hiring you. This is how you get the ball rolling for your business. For me, this was a process that probably took about 6 months for me to really get busy. And so I started in July of 2022. I think I started feeling a little bit busy around Thanksgiving, Christmas, which is a busy time anyway, so I think that helped. But just know that in the beginning, it's going to likely be slow. That is normal, and it's actually great because it gives you a chance to get your feet wet, to kind of learn what works, to learn the process at a slower pace before things really accelerate. And just a note about what types of jobs on Meowtel are in most demand. In my experience, anyway, it can be different for everybody. But first of all, you can offer 20-minute visits, you can offer 45-minute visits, and you can offer 60-minute visits. You can also do overnights. And so you can turn these things on or off individually on your profile. I currently don't have overnights. Honestly, ever since Katniss got sick, I turned off overnights and never turned them back on. I just don't love the idea of leaving her home alone to go sleep at somebody else's house with their cat. But of the three that I offer, 20, 45, and 60, by far 20 and 45, way, 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 way more popular than 60. I've had one 60-minute visit request in the entire time I've been on Meowtel. If your experience is different and you're on the app, let me know. I'd be honestly really curious. I would say it's kind of like 50-50 as to whether somebody wants a 20 or a 45. Generally speaking, when they want a 20, it's a lot more likely they're going to want one in the morning and evening. And then when they want a 45, it's like once a day. But that's not an absolute. Most of my clients request daily visits. I have a couple that will do every other day requests. And I do know some sitters are hesitant to take jobs like that. And the reason is obvious, because it just gives more time in between you being there where something might go wrong. I personally don't have that same hang up because I have in the past had a cat that was so difficult that I actually could not leave her with a sitter for liability reasons. And the tough part about that was when I did leave, she was by herself. And I tried not to do it often, and I didn't do it often. But when I had to, I had no choice. And as much as that sucked, it kind of trained me to not be panicked about like a day in between. So you can make up your own mind about that. Just know that that's what most clients in my experience have been looking for. So when you kind of create your schedule and kind of think things through, just kind of be aware of that. Okay, now I'm going to get into some like general tips and or just like points to keep in mind. I think they can apply to cat sitting beyond just for Meowtel, but a lot of these are Meowtel specific. So let's get started. First, familiarize yourself with Meowtel's policies. They are on the website and they are important to know because here's one thing, just flat out. If you do not stick to or adhere to Meowtel policies, you may, one, get booted off the app, but two, their insurance policy, which they advertise as a major benefit for customers and which also helps protect you, is void. I've mentioned this many times, but just one example. One thing about Meowtel's policy is during the duration of your job. So if it's 5 days, that means those 5 days. Nobody else can be entering that home. So that includes like cleaning services, neighbors, whatever. A lot of clients in my experience do have other things scheduled for the time they're out of town. They may not always tell you. If indeed that does happen, the insurance goes void. And the reason is kind of obvious, because if you have other people entering the house, something can happen and you would really have no way of proving, most likely, who to kind of like, I hate to say that this way, but pin that on. And so it is a protection for Meowtel, but also just be aware of that as a sitter. That's why it's so, so important to know what you are getting into. That is one thing where you want to read the terms and conditions and just know what they say. Secondly, do the same for their insurance. Their insurance is very detailed on their website. It talks very in depth about what it includes, what it doesn't include. I actually have made a video specifically about Meowtel's insurance and what you need to know, and if you need to consider buying a separate pet sitting policy, which you can refer to for more information as well. But generally speaking, what you need to know about their insurance is it is meant to kick in for medical stuff and also property damage in cases where the sitter has been negligent and that led to either like a medical situation or something getting damaged. It is not meant to cover like really anything beyond that, and therefore it is fairly limited, and it is advertised as protection for the client, like peace of mind, like they're more likely to book on the app because this exists. But it also covers you because, again, if the insurance is covering whatever issue, they're not coming after you personally. Anyway, I highly, highly recommend you check out the insurance video and also read the policy in depth on their site. Okay, next thing is never take a job without doing a meet and greet first. A meet and greet is essentially where you go over to the client's home, you meet them, you meet their cat, you see the layout, you learn everything they're going to want you to do, you ask questions, they ask questions of you. Frankly, you kind of get a feel for each other to make sure it is a good fit. There's no alarming red flags that stand out to you. And it's so important. I would never, ever, ever, ever feel comfortable accepting a job where I had not first been able to be over there and see all those things. There is just too much liability. And what surprised me in the very beginning of joining Meowtel is there are a decent number of clients that were totally fine with like just communicating with me through the app, letting me know that the key would be on the porch and, I should start this date and instructions will be on the counter. And I was like, like I insist on a meet and greet. I don't know if it's technically required by Meowtel, but it's absolutely advertised as like a free meet and greet as part of the experience. I think they allow you to also do them via video, except in the most extenuating circumstances, which is really, frankly, hard for me to imagine one where I would accept I require a physical meet and greet. There's just too much you learn. It's just too important. And then after your meet and greet, I would make it a practice to put notes, things that stand out to you that the client said that you need to remember, in the Meowtel app. There is a notes section. It is private. It's just viewable by you. These are things that become really, really important if this client especially becomes a regular. They're things that are so easy to remember at the time, but the more clients you take on, the busier you get. These little things are not quite as easy to remember for every single house right off the top of your head. So a detailed note system, I like them in the app because the app is always with me. It doesn't hurt to have a backup at your house, but I would definitely take some notes. And then what I do actually right before a job starts, like a day or two before, I send a message to the client saying, hey, like I'm all set to begin watching, and then fill in the cat's names. And, I have in my notes that it's going to be this day through this day, these times per day, like specify everything they've requested. I ask them, is that correct? And then I say, like, here's some of, here's what I have. And is this correct? And I think that it comes across responsible. I think it helps comfort them because you have to remember that a lot of pet owners, I being one of them, get very, very nervous leaving their fur babies. Anything that you can do to comfort them ahead of time, to let them know it's top of mind for you, that you're planning on being there, that you're not going to stand them up, that you've got it all down, will just make them feel better. It contributes to them having a wonderful impression about you and your business. Another tip is always ask the client about the requested time. So in the Meowtel app, a client can request a morning visit, a no time preference visit, or an evening visit. But within those timeframes is a huge range. And sometimes I've learned that a client will state morning visit and Meowtel's range is big, but that client is thinking small, like really thinking I want them there at 9. So just ask them. It's one of those communication things that I've learned really actually is important. Also, if a client gets into the habit of typically requesting you for mornings or whatever, and then you get a request, like for another job, don't make the assumption that they're requesting the same thing. Always read it thoroughly. I've had clients completely flip on me, and had I not read it thoroughly, I would have missed that. Next thing to be aware of is there can be a delay in messaging with the app. And what I mean by this specifically is like when I send a message through the app, or I get a message through the app, I will also get like a backup email alert that will tell me I have like a request or a message. And there seems to be like a It's not instant, I'll just say that. So if you're relying on like your emails to alert you of something, it may not be, it might, but for me it isn't anyway. And so just know there can be a delay. There's going to take some proactive checking on your part, especially if you're like waiting for something timely. Next thing is definitely have a system to manage keys and or codes. So for me personally, it's actually becoming a lot more common for people just to have garage door codes or door codes, and keys are less common. Maybe, I mean, it might be a 50-50 split, but you need to have a system at your house for tracking keys. I use a piece of masking tape, super simple. I write the job. I have a drawer I keep them in. And in terms of codes, I just have a running list in my planner. And before a job would start with a client that I've sat for before, I'll just confirm, like, is the key still the same? When can I pick it up? Or is this still your code? This is what I have from last time. Also important is to have a backup plan for each and every job. And by backup plan, I mean, what are you going to do if like an emergency strikes? Do you have a way, like for example, if your car is totaled, which this happened to me like shortly after I joined Meowtel, for sure, right before the holiday rush, how would you get to that job? Do you have a second car? Would you be willing to Uber? Is that distance realistic to bike or walk? What if a major weather event hits? There's all these things you want to be thinking about in your head. What if? It is something you can talk about with the client at the meet and greet. Oftentimes they might have a neighbor who might be able to run over. They might have a backup phone number you can reach them on. It's just something that you would rather like plan ahead, have that plan and need it, or have it and not need it rather than need it and not have it. Okay, this next one, I feel like when I watch pet sitting videos, people make like entire videos out of just this one point, which I've condensed into just one point because frankly, it is just so basic. Like, I don't think people should have to be told this in depth. It is basically master the basics. Be professional. Show up on time. Stay for the amount of time you were hired for. Pay attention to the cats. Don't be playing on your phone or like just sitting there like staring off into space. Be careful about what you're wearing so it presents at least a semi-professional appearance. And basically with this, I kind of mean like avoid like controversial logos, slogans, etc. Anything that if it's caught on camera, you risk turning off the client. Just not worth it. These are things that, again, I don't feel like a lot of people should need to be told this in any depth. I think customers expect this at a bare minimum. Just doing these things isn't providing excellent service. Just doing these things is providing passable service, in my opinion. Excellent goes above and beyond this, but if you don't do at least this, your chances of getting a good review or a repeat request are not great. And I think I said it, but if I didn't, just literally assume everything that you do in that house is caught on camera. Most clients have them. Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. Never, ever, ever do or say anything that you wouldn't want them to see or hear. Next tip is to over communicate with your clients. You can never go wrong doing this. Now, Meowtel makes it very, very clear that their app is where all official communication should happen on. They have a way to message the clients. They can message you back. That's how you send them photos, video clips, ask questions, everything. And the reason it is so important to keep that on the app is because if something were to ever happen, that record would be used as an official record. That might actually CYA in like a court case. And God forbid it ever got to that point. Unlikely, but you just don't know. And so over communicate, which means not only send a detailed summary about how the visit went every time you leave the home, along with some photos or videos, but also if any questions come up, if you are uncertain about anything, send them a picture, ask them a question, put it on record that you noticed and asked. Just so important. Also, it really does present like a professional and aware, like on top of things image. Next is take great photos and videos. I could literally do a whole video about how to take great photos and some of my favorites and some tips. And also there's actually some kind of like legally things about being in someone's private residence, taking photos and using them for any other purpose other than like sending them to the client through the Meowtel app. That is a separate video, but just know that photos and videos, clients love them. I get a lot of comments on the photos and videos that I send to them of their kitty cats. Also, and just be aware, it is really basically added time to your job. So you have a 45-minute job. After the job is done is when I send the photos and videos. And it does take some time to sort through them and pick out the best ones and send them through the app. So I'm always kind of tacking on in my mind a little bit of extra time to each job in terms of what I'm actually spending on it. Okay, the next point is so true. This job will both make and break your heart, especially as you get repeat business and you get to know these people and their kitty cats. You will likely encounter stuff that is super difficult. I personally have not, like on my jobs, but I have cat sit for 2 families who have since lost their kitties to illness. And it's so hard because one of them in particular was gone all the time, and I was basically like the cat's second home. I mean, I would go into their home, but I was basically like the human that they saw most in addition to their human parents. And I actually went over to their home the day that they were going to take her in and saw her just a few hours before. And I mean, believe me when I tell you, and I don't say this lightly because I am definitely on the end of like, I probably wait too long to do this kind of thing in the past. But it was this kitty's time, and it was really hard. And they touch your heart in ways that you don't even realize until something like that comes up. On the flip side, I've met some just amazing friends now and clients that are so, so cool. I've had clients give me holiday gifts. I've had clients check in on my kitty cat. I've had clients ask me questions about like business and stuff. So it's a really cool, personable job, and those connections that you form make it just extra rewarding. So particularly on Meowtel, repeat business is going to be key to thriving, and that is because the percentage that Meowtel takes of each job decreases the more you work for somebody. So the more you earn with one client, the less and less Meowtel takes, and that is lifetime cumulative, so it doesn't reset ever. So this is highly incentivized to get repeat business. I mean, every single thing I'm sharing in this video is kind of aimed at helping you do that, but just know that that is like one of the absolute keys to thriving on this platform. Next is to consider starting maybe a social media page to promote specifically your Meowtel sitting. Now, I have actually not taken this step yet for a couple of reasons. One, as a part-timer, I am juggling so many other things. And 2, I have some real questions about what would be okay to share, etc. So we're going to get into that in the photo/video that I make. But it is something that I do think about, and I think that the more you want to grow this, the more inclined you are to be full-time. That's something people are going to expect. So even if you're not ready to take that full step, it doesn't hurt to save the handle to go see if it's available on like an Instagram, claim it and save it so it is there for you, ready to rock and roll when you are. Okay, I just have 2 more, and I know this is going so long, so if you've made it this far, I'm very thankful and very impressed. But the second to last tip is about adjusting rates. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, Meowtel has a feature where they will constantly tell you how your rates compare to other sitters in the area. And it will tell you like you're 20% higher, you're X% lower, and it will basically kind of like subtly encourage you to adjust. I'm just gonna share my philosophy. I don't adjust based on that. I have my rates set based on what I value my service at. And I also think about the fact I'm doing the meet and greet and all this extra time I'm spending with the photos and the videos. I really have my service set as, I kind of view it as a premium service, extra care and attention, tons of communication, great photos and videos. Like I am going above and beyond every job, and I want my price to reflect that. I believe I'm one of the highest in my area, which may or may not be hurting me. I don't know, honestly, because I'm as busy as I care to be. So you have to do that based on like where you're at in your business and what you want. But I would not get into this like knee-jerk reaction of just because your area is, you might be high for your area that you immediately have to go adjust. Think about it more in terms of the value you provide and the value you set that out for your time. And finally, guys, last tip for this video. This is one I have learned the hard way. This is one that is so important, and this is one that will catch up with you before you realize that it catch up with you, which is basically to be proactive about booking some time off. It is so easy to get burnt out doing this. You can love it. It can like bring out the best in you. You can just have the best time and look forward to every day. And eventually one day you're going to realize like, oh my God, like I'm starting to feel it. But then you're going to see in your calendar, there's still 2 months of jobs that you have to get through before you can even take a day. So one of the most beneficial things that I've done, because I ran into that more than once, like I burnt out to the point where I took literally like a whole month, a holiday month off. And that kind of killed my business for a couple of months surrounding it. But it was so necessary. So literally think ahead, block off maybe a couple days, a few days. You know what the right amount is per month, Block off any days where there's major potential conflicts. If that conflict does not turn out to materialize, at least you have some time off. Basically, just remember that striking a balance is key to longevity, and we're playing the long game here. Like, this is something that literally I think you could do for the rest of your life as a side hustle or even a full-time job if you wanted to. And so you don't want to burn out and then like never want to touch it again. So just be sure that you're balancing, you're taking care of yourself, and you're keeping everything in perspective. Okay, so that's kind of like my comprehensive review as to what it's like, what it has been like for me to work as a Meowtel sitter, and also just some tips for people wanting to get into join the platform. If there's anything that I did not cover, any questions that you have, leave them in the comments below. I would be happy to reply. There are other things popping into my mind that I didn't talk about, like the importance of networking with other sitters, what to do if X happens. We can get into them in the future, but I hope this gives you a good start. Again, whether it is a part-time side hustle or like a full-time career you're seeking, there is possibility here. I told you at the beginning that I'm averaging about $800 a month after all Meowtel's fees are taken out. If I wanted to, I can tell you for sure that the work is there, that could double or triple pretty easily. I wouldn't even have to change really what I'm doing, just open up more availability and be willing to say yes a little bit more. Beyond that, I think there's ways you can extend it even further, meaning get even more work. So there is definite possibility here, and that is super exciting. So it's like a low entry barrier, meaning it doesn't cost you anything to get started. Somebody asked me recently if I have an affiliate link, so if you want to be a Meowtel sitter, you can recommend that I sent you there. They actually do have a process for this, which I did not know until literally like yesterday. But it's not super intuitive. Like, it's like a link on their website that I would have to share with you via email, or if you're ever interested in that, I mean, no pressure whatsoever, but if you would like that, you can direct message me on Katniss's Instagram and we could probably handle it that way. If not, again, no pressure at all. Do it at your own desire. Let me know your experiences if you plan to or are doing it. I look forward to hearing you and your stories, and I will talk to you soon in the next video.